Working.
Hand that everyone can hear us, please. Awesome, awesome. That's great. Beautiful. Danny, everyone can hear us. Over to you. Looks like Danny's struggling. Just 1 second, guys. I think Danny might have just kicked herself out. I would perhaps say that we let her join in again. However, having said that, I might take the reins over shortly, given that there are so many of you here. Thank you, firstly, everyone, for taking out the time to join us today. I'm super excited about this webinar. And this is a topic that is particularly close to my heart. And I often say that I've spent best part of my career working with this organ called the gut. I have cut it, I have stitched it, I have measured it, and I have researched it as well. So I want to thank every one of you for joining in. We have a very interesting lineup in the sense that we have got Danny. I know she was having some tech issues with logging in with her computer, but that's okay. But we have a very special guest, Chris Thomas. Now, Chris is a delightful story of how he had gastric sleeve, and I won't reveal too much, but that's not the key bit. You know, everyone can achieve a degree of weight loss with a gastric sleeve. But what is amazing about this gentleman is that the way he has taken the advice given to him, the way he has taken the advice given to him and taken it to the last letter and literally transformed his life. So we will get to that in a moment, but I think let's begin while Danny is still trying to come in. Let's begin by, I would like to share a presentation with you to set the stage, because there has been so much talk going on about the gut-weight connection, the gut microbiome, the gut-brain connection, that I think it is pertinent to understand. We need to demystify this. And it's hard because there is so much information. Everyone is dabbling into this space, even naturopaths. Then we look at even chiropractors and almost everyone. So I guess it warrants a very objective, I should say, overview. And then we can talk about the real life story, which is that of Chris. So if I can just ask you, just by way of a show of hands, how many of you actually believe that your weight has got something to do with your gut health? Just a show of hands. I'm just curious to know how many of you, clearly you are on this webinar, you think about it and you believe that that is the cause. Excellent. So thank you so much. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be bringing this, demystifying the gut-weight connection. Now, I bring in a little bit of science in it, but I'm also going to be keeping it very simple so you guys remain focused and remain connected with me, because I know what happens when things start to go over your head. Well, who cares? You know, people just switch off. And I'm not saying about you specifically, because you are a motivated audience, because you are here, you're braving this time and spending it with me. So my journey, friend, started with, I'm a GI surgeon. That's what I have been trained as. And so I've handled the gut for a long period of time. But I was not satisfied with just accepting that surgical procedures are enough to create a change in your gut health. I knew there was something going on over and above what we would do as procedures. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that when I got my long service leave after 10 years of my service in the hospital system, I wanted to dedicate it to a study of gut health. And that's what I did, that I essentially made a project that I'm going to write a book on gut-weight connection. And that's what I did, titled Happy Gut, Healthy Weight, which is available on Amazon. I was really proud to sort of, this was my first book, but more than anyone else, it gave me a lot of insight. what it also told me was one pertinent question that I was always trying to answer, that what are the long-term results of weight loss surgery and how durable is weight loss surgery? Because that was something, that was my craft. I was doing weight loss surgery. I was trying to find answers on how I could help my patients more. So when I looked at the data, and this is the study, by the way, which was published in Journal of American Medical Association, and they looked at bariatric surgery and long-term durability of weight loss, they found that only 71% of patients had more than 20% weight loss. And if you took the sort of statistics down, this is they followed patients for 10 years after weight loss, after having a gastric bypass. And only 40% of the patients could achieve more than 30% weight loss at 10-year mark. Now, what that means is at, almost 33% of patients are not going to be achieving a desirable weight loss that they started out with. And this is a further elaboration of the data that they said. And if you can see this, just this one table, this was the Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, but this is sleeve gastrectomy. And this bottom row that we're looking at is long-term failure. Long-term failure means less than 50% of excess weight loss. Lab bands, the results were abysmal, clearly. But with sleeve gastrectomy, there were 30% long-term failures. And with Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, there were 15% failures. So that was like kind of really almost 1/3 of the patients were going to fail. So the question that came to my mind was this a short-term fix, or is it a long-term cure? So that was the big question that was going on in my mind. And what I did was, and this is just a bit of a background information around it, that weight loss surgery acts by changing your gut hormones. So that's how it mostly does. It also reduces the size of your effective stomach, regardless of whether you're considering the sleeve or the gastric bypass. But there was one new player in the whole mix of these are the different ways how surgery acts, by sending hormones, hormonal signals, by sending the nerve signals, changing what happens in the fatty tissue, in the pancreas, and all of that. But there was one new player in the game that had come in, and that is the alterations in the gut bacteria, which was a big thing because not many scientists at that stage had known about it. So this is what I call the secret lives of the gut microbes, which is the gut bacteria, which really is a mysterious organ, because now we know that your body has got more bacteria than cells. Isn't that amazing? That you've got 100 trillion with a T bacteria, whereas your body is basically having less number of cells, 100 the cells than the number of bacteria. So go back to the roots. The father of modern medicine said all disease begins in the gut. And that was a bit of an awakening for me, because when I read this literature and this research on why weight loss surgery fails, and then I figured out that Hippocrates, who was in 320 BC, had said, that father of modern medicine had said, all disease begins in the gut. It was a bit of a wake-up call. As I just mentioned to you, that the gut bacteria, there are about 100 trillion gut bacteria. Many of these cannot even be cultured in our laboratories. We've got the ability to culture some of them, but some we can't even culture, because the moment they get exposed, they die off. More importantly, that these bacteria are highly modified by our diet. And now, as we are finding out, they are holding a key link to obesity, autism, diabetes, and other problems. So I went back looking at this, and I said, I have grown up with this belief that you become what you eat. Is this really a proof that this is actually true? Well, that was indeed what it was. And when I delved into the literature further, I realized that when we were hunter-gatherers, our ancestors, our forefathers, when they were hunter-gatherers, they had a huge diversity of bacteria in their gut. But as you see in the human evolution, as we are going on this x-axis, we realize that as agricultural revolution came in, as industrial revolution came in, the variety or the diversity of the gut bacteria slowly started to decrease. And on top of that, we started putting various diets, sanitation, antibiotics, preservatives, pesticides, and toxins, which our foods are laden with, caused further deterioration of the bacterial variety or diversity in our gut, which has led to a spike in these chronic diseases, metabolic, immune, colorectal cancer, heart diseases in our society. So the two are almost linking together. Isn't that fascinating? How many of you are finding this fascinating? Just a show of hands, or did you know about this? Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for responding, because this is what is crucial, and I'm trying to simplify this so that everyone gets it. I want you to stay engaged, because towards the end, I'm going to share something really practical with all of you, something that will give you value as to how you can start applying it. So friends, the simplest way how I suggest you look at your own gut health is like your internal garden. This is how your internal garden needs to look like. Beautiful, multiple varieties of flowers, multiple shapes, sizes, no weeds or minimal weeds such that you can't see them. It is a beautiful sight to look at. However, in the modern society, we live in a state of perpetual stress. Why I say this is, stress doesn't come when you have to meet a deadline. Stress doesn't come when you have an argument with your boss or your spouse or whatever. No, stress comes when your brain has to make a decision all the time. For example, you are comfortably doing your work on your computer. Suddenly there's a notification that comes from Facebook. Then there's a notification that comes from WhatsApp. Then there is a message. Then there is a phone call. Your brain is constantly having to make decisions. That is the job of your brain, to make decisions, which causes it to stay in a high alert state or high stress state, which is why we say that we are now in the age where our attention span has gone down to less than 3 seconds. When I learned that, like 4 decades ago, an average person's attention span was 16 seconds. This is precise data, friends, that I'm sharing with you. And over 4 decades, that average attention span has reduced to 3 seconds. No wonder our society is struggling with kids who have got attention deficit. Autism, ADHD are known side effects of this society in which we are living, where digitalization has caused us to become so distracted that we are perpetually stressed. But that's not where things end. It actually causes an effect on your gut by increased levels of cortisol, causes fatty liver and preferential fat distribution in your truncal area. It also weakens your immunity and causes poor or bad quality bugs to flourish in your gut. Now, I'm going to take questions at the end, but keep typing. That's okay. I just get some notifications that...
Can I just interrupt and just say hello?
Oh, sorry. What happened? Sorry, Danny.
Hello. Sorry, I just want to interrupt and say hello. I'm here. Sorry about that. I had some technical issues.
No, that's okay. That's no problem. Let's just continue. So basically, what I'm just trying to say is that, when we look at the gut is the seat of all inflammation. Inflammation is nothing else but whenever there is an injury, it leads to swelling, redness, and stimulation of the immune system, which is now the basis of so many conditions. And I won't name all of these, but you can see that. But don't forget, metabolic syndrome and diabetes is one of them. So it's crucial to understand that inflammation is the basis of it, not just more fat. So that's the basis, and that's crucial to understand. So coming back to the original garden that we are planning for ourselves, what is the impact of so much stress on this? Well, this is how it is actually looking. It looks like weeds in the garden. All sorts of weeds are growing. And hey, do we need to struggle hard to grow weeds? Anyone? Not at all. The weeds just come by of their own. And that is the biggest challenge. And this is a beautiful work that came from Sonnenberg and Sonnenberg. It's a couple from Stanford University. They said that there is an extinction inside our guts. What they said is our guts resemble a landscape in decline. The gut ecosystem, and they compare it to the Great Barrier Reef, is malleable but also very fragile. You all know, anyone who's got a beautiful garden at their place know the amount of effort it takes to taking care of a beautiful garden. I'm sure. Patricia, you've got a comment to make, or have you got something to say? I just noticed that you raised your hand. So I'm happy to take a comment or anything if you want to say. Even I've got this comment that even trying to decide which toothpaste to choose from 50 different brands is a challenge. I agree. I completely agree. So no, I think those things are very pertinent, going back to the stress side of things. But let's continue with this. And what we'll do is let your questions keep coming in. I'll just ignore them just for now, but then Danny can take on. She's my co-host, so I'll let her manage the questions. The bottom line, what causes extinction inside our guts is the low fiber diets that are causing a wave of extinction. And by low fiber, I really mean low plant-based fiber. And that is crucial. So the low diversity, now we know, this has been published in journals as prestigious as the Nature, that loss of diversity because of processed foods, antibiotics, cesarean sections is causing all these immune-mediated diseases, especially of the gut, but also not related to the gut, like autism. And it is published in Nature. So what I talk about in my book, this is an image from my book, but I also talk about with my colleagues and also in my consult sessions with the programs that I run, is the circle of optimal health. The circle of optimal health really has got its heart, the basis of recalibrating your microbiome, which is the gut bacteria. Number 2 is recalibrating your neurobiome, which is your brain circuitry, and recalibrating your genome, which is the genes. Now, a lot of people think, oh, I've been born with a set of genes, I can't change it. Well, there is a term called epigenetics, which means something which is epi means above and genetics means genes. And that is something that can influence your genes. Now, what can influence your gene is the environment. And don't think it's only the external environment that influences the genes. It's also your internal environment. You may be living in the cleanest of the places. And I was reading the other day that, Australia is one of the most beautiful nations to be living in the world, actually. And the amount of obesity and the diabetes that we are seeing in our society is staggering. It's almost like an epidemic. So I talk about, the basis of a plant-based diet and, the green space, well-managed stress, sleep, and mind-body exercises. Now, how many of you are finding this of some value? Just a show of hands. Are you learning something new here? Have you found something which you say, oh, I didn't know this? Awesome. Thank you. So what I say to you, friends, is that the principle of learning is, and I'm a huge fan of, developing new skills, personal development, anything that helps human beings to evolve and become a better version of themselves. The most important thing is what you hear, you forget. What you see, you remember. But what you do, is what you understand. So I hope you'll agree with me on this, that simply hearing is like, okay, you're going to forget it. Yes, it's a great idea to take notes so that you are actually seeing it. But the most important thing is when you actually start putting these things into practice. So that's what we're going to be doing now. I'm going to be sharing with you some practical ideas, some practical concepts on what can be done in order, what can you do today, right from today onwards, to actually start looking after your gut health. And please, I want to make it very clear, I'm not in the business of selling supplements, selling probiotics, and all of that. So the program, or what I talk about, is this 4-step process, which is called weed, feed, seed, and heed. Now, what do I mean by that? The 4 steps of actually recultivating and recalibrating your internal garden is, you remember the photo that I showed you of the weeds garden that is full of weeds? Well, if you start taking some seeds of beautiful ornamental plants and you start throwing it everywhere, well, I'm pretty sure all of you agree, none of those seeds are going to take up. Is that right? I hope everyone agrees with me on that. So when I get people who say that, oh, we are taking this exotic probiotic, we are taking these supplements, we are taking turmeric, and we are taking whatever, grape seeds and this and that. Well, I say to them, it's just like throwing seeds when there are already weeds growing. So first thing is you have to actually pull out the weeds. You have to cultivate the soil, and you have to increase the vitality or the fertility of the soil. So first is weeding, then is you feed the soil, which is what improves the fertility of the soil. Then you plant the seed. Any farmer would attest to this sequence. And then once you have seed, then you go to heed. Heed means to pay attention to. Paying attention allows you to make sure that your plants are growing properly, the weeds are not taking over, and the birds are not eating them away. Well, the same analogy applies over here. Now, you will ask me, how do I know? How do I test what is the status of my gut health? Well, very easy answer. You can check your oral health. Your oral health is the window to your gut health. Now, this is again an image from my book, because oral health is related to not only dental plaque and gingivitis or caries, but it is also related to the extent of gut inflammation. My dentist now regularly does salivary pH. The pH of your saliva, the more acidic it is, the more it reflects that your gut health is poor. The more alkaline it is, the better it is. So that's a very simple test. You can do the salivary pH just, with a pH stick. You can get that, and that's easy. Then we have the gut regen program. Now, I won't go too much into the details of this because not everyone needs it. However, what I will say is that these are the practical tips, because that program is fairly advanced and not everyone needs that. But what we know is a weak gut health is weak metabolism. See, regardless of whether you are considering weight loss surgery or not, what is crucial to understand is you have to focus on getting the best metabolism. If your metabolism is that of a healthy person, well, you will maintain your weight loss. I know this. And not just weight loss, you will improve in the degree of inflammation that you have in your body, which is the basis of all disease. So the 3 things that I suggest right now, right here is, number 1, when you get up in the morning, take some warm water, 2 to 4 glasses of warm water, whatever your ability is, squeeze some lemon juice in it, and that is a great way to start your day. You can sip it slowly, and then you can progress with it. Second tip, I personally do this cold press juicing. Cold press juicing, the reason why I say cold press, and that's the key word over here, please understand, cold press is not like a centrifuge motor which generates heat and it takes away all the magnificent antioxidants that are there in the items that are being juiced. Cold press juices can be stored for a period of up to a week. And I consume only about 75 mils of juice on a daily basis. And if you had just these 4 ingredients, half a pomegranate, 4 sticks of celery, 50 grams of ginger, and 1 carrot, that's all you need. And I can tell you, you will immediately start recalibrating your gut health. And you can take 50 mils to 70 mils of juice on a daily basis. I take it generally on a midday. And the last thing is, if you can avoid taking meals after 6 p.m., and that leads us to the next important, which will explain why this is so. And that is what is called as the intermittent fasting. Friends, intermittent fasting is not just a weight loss strategy. The simplest way to describe intermittent fasting is that it is eating the eating pattern is between a period of eating and fasting. So it can be done in various different ways, which I'll just explain in a moment, but it is found to have some really specific benefits. The benefits include things like, increased growth hormone release, reduced blood pressure, more fat burning. And the most important thing that I feel is reduced oxidative stress and reduced inflammation in your body. You have to just try it for I would say as little as 1 week to be able to start experiencing the benefits of it. Just a show of hands, how many have heard of intermittent fasting or have tried it? Just tried it, Awesome. So I've got a few people here now. Oh my God, quite a few people have actually tried. Well done. Good. So intermittent fasting, this is again an image from my book. And what we do is there are 3 different ways that I recommend you can do, but I will tell you what I do as well. So one is you can do overnight fasting. This is my personal favorite. I just say that I'm going to have breakfast at 9 o'clock and no meals after 5 p.m. I find that easy to do. 9 to 5 is what I'm eating between, and around that time outside, I'm having a cup of tea. I can have some nuts if I'm really feeling peckish, or, I might have a piece of fruit if I'm really hungry. I like some dates sometimes, but I'll be honest, sometimes I've had chocolate as well, although that's not allowed. But look, you know what? We are human beings at the end of the day. The other way to do it is you could do it alternate days. Like some people do 5-2 diets. So, you can stop, eat over a 24-hour period. And the other way is, again, the 5-2 diet, but that is like you can calculate certain days in a month that you're going to be fasting. So you could say every week I'm going to not eat, or I'm going to be on a water fast, basically just taking water on a particular day. For me personally, 9 to 5 works because my work is that's how my body is, and my work requires me to be maintaining a certain level of concentration and blood glucose. You can imagine when you're operating, you can't say I'm not able to concentrate because I'm hungry. So I hope that makes sense. So I think what is crucial to understand is that our lifespan has increased by the way of how our modern medical science has developed. But the whole basis of this is to improve our health span. So that's what we are focusing on. That's where tapping into this innate intelligence of our gut, which is really the second brain, is crucial. Now, what I have to share with you, friends, is this is what is the basis of any suffering or any disintegration, any disease. The way I look at it is the 3 circles. It is the pain that our body experiences. Then we experience problems which are related to our identity, and we experience problems related to our journey, which is what is our purpose, what is our meaning. But for all of this, we need one thing, which is your intuition. Intuition is something that the best way for me to describe it is your inner voice, inner hunch. You know those gut feelings? When you go and meet someone, you get a gut feel that this guy is amazing. I need to listen to him. Or you get this feeling, oh my God, I am never coming back to this person again. Those are your gut feelings. Now, we sometimes suppress those feelings, or many a times we suppress those feelings because we've got other masks that we wear. So we we do not speak our own voice. And that is where I say that the basis of all this problems, all the disillusionments, disease, starts with a weakened intuition. If your intuition is like your compass, it's your guiding mechanism. If someone told you that just come with me, trust me, I will take you to the right destination, I know, what would you do? You would just relax. You would say, okay, this person knows, my mom or dad, whoever it is, I trust this person, let's go with it. That's exactly what your intuition is. Your intuition is your inner compass. It's your GPS. So what I have to share with you is, almost coming towards the end of it, is that I have a program which is called Awaken Your Gut Brain, in which I provide 6 individual consultation sessions. These are one-on-one sessions that I provide to people who are interested. And we go through not just the science, but the practical strategies. What are the workouts that are required, as I showed you in that circle of optimal health, all aimed at awakening and recalibrating your gut health and awakening your second brain. That's the basis of it, So as a mark of my gratitude and thanks to all of you, I am going to be offering the first session free to anyone who wants to take value or avail this offer. This is just something that I wanted to put it out there. You guys have spent your time today with me, and I wanted to make it worthwhile and worth your value for this, because I think this is the need of the moment. There is so much confusion out there. And mind you, this does not incorporate taking supplements and things like that. So anyone who's interested, they can just send us an email to admin. The email address is right there, admin@drarundhir.com. Or you can just email my staff and they will send you the link to book an appointment. It is an online appointment. So all these consultations are online, but the first one is free, and we can send you more information on that. So I think that's where I'm going to wrap up. I have taken enough of time, but you know what? I have enjoyed it. I hope you have enjoyed it too. So,
We have.
Danny, I'm going to, yes, over to you, and I'm going to stop sharing. And what do you want to do?
Well, I want to say hello first and foremost. Sorry, everybody.
I know.
I had
We've
some
been missing you.
You'll laugh at this, but you know what happened? I actually forgot to register myself. So I didn't
I am laughing at this, certainly. We've got 25 people, and I'm sure they're all laughing too.
Because I made sure everyone else registered, but I forgot myself, so I didn't have the link. So that was quite fun.
That's fine. You're here with us now. So tell me.
But you know what? Now we're going to do this program completely backwards. Like, we were going to wait for you, the gut guru, to tell us all this information, and you've done that first, but that's all good. So I'm sure we all found that extremely informative. We do have some questions. Do we want to wait to the very end to answer those, Arun? Or
I think we can answer some now.
All right.
And then we'll move over to Chris, because we want to hear his story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So look, we've got some questions here about gut health and the link with anxiety. And I think you were mentioning that there is a link, obviously, with mental health and gut health. So would you like to sort of go into that a little bit more detail?
Yeah. So as I said, the gut is like our second brain, and there is plenty of evidence now which is coming up that there is a gut-brain axis. I talk about it. There is a nerve connection, there is a hormonal connection, and we see a profound effect on this when we especially do weight loss surgery, because the appetite changes, the hormones change. And I'm sure, Danny, you and many others who are on the call have experienced this, that your cravings for sugars change. You crave salads then, So there is an absolute connection between the gut and the brain. Now, if we took it a stretch further, we also now know that poor gut bacteria also cause inflammation in the brain, which is called neuroinflammation, which is the basis of conditions like, dementia, ADHD, autism spectrum disorders, and all of that. So again, the science is evolving on that, and maybe simply taking a probiotic is not the solution to it.
Yeah, That's great advice, actually. And I was going to do a little bit of a PowerPoint, but we haven't got time for that now because we want to get to Chris, about a story about myself, actually, and how I ended up developing symptoms of anxiety and that because I simply went on a diet that cut out fat. And it was a low calorie type diet. And so what that meant was that I wasn't eating well and I disrupted my gut health. And I was eating a lot of artificial sweetener because I thought as long as it doesn't have the calories, it's okay. It's a low fat, low calorie diet. That's supposed to be good. And I was exercising and then I was wondering why my stomach wasn't feeling right. And I started getting, stabbing pains and all that. And I'm sure other people can relate to this. You go and have your tests. You go see your GP and they say, okay, let's see if you're lactose intolerant. Okay. And you do the test. Oh, yep, you're lactose intolerant. Well, of course you are. Your stomach's inflamed. You've disrupted your gut bacteria so severely. And then I went for, your colonoscopy and your endoscopy to make sure there was nothing, sinister in there. They're great procedures to have, and I'm thinking...
They're fun procedures to have.
And you go through that and then they say, oh, there's nothing going on there. I think you've got IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. Oh, okay. So what do I do for that? And and what I noticed was when I stopped that silly, ridiculous diet and started to incorporate your good fats again, your protein, your complex carbohydrates and all that, I started to feel better and my stomach calmed down. And my mental health was affected during that time too. I felt anxious and I felt a little bit flat. So
and if I can just add to that, Danny, is that, the worst thing that affects the gut health is being on diets. Exactly. Being on one diet, because what you're doing being on a diet is you're cutting out one complete category of foods like carbs. Carbs is the first thing. Oh my God, carbs is so bad, Whereas science tells us that you need everything in balance. You need carbohydrates, you need fats, you need proteins. And I see people, they go crazy on protein and they cut out carbs completely, which completely destroys their gut bacteria.
Oh, without doubt. And you know what else does? Eating non-foods like artificial sweetener. Like we are putting toxins in our body and then wondering why we've got stomach pain.
And I think Rebecca has just said that, you can't stay on a diet for long. Absolutely, Beck, because that's the biggest challenge with diets is that they are unsustainable. You can't sustain a diet. Now, I've got a question from Sarah who's asking that, I've never been able to find papers on how stress impacts the immune system and specifically sends the immune system into overdrive. Well, Sarah, the short answer is get my book because I've got a whole section on resources at the end. Oh, there it is. Sorry, thank you.
Send it to you, Sarah. How are you? I can send it to you. This was life-changing for me. The Gut Guru, I'm telling you, the Gut Guru is with us tonight.
No, thank you. So I guess it's really around, putting things in a simple way, realizing the link that is there and then taking one step at a time. So Danny, just your story in terms of, did you just start incorporating different healthy foods in your diet? Was that it? Or did you actually do something else besides that?
Well, at that stage, this is a few years ago, basically that's what I did. I just stopped the diet and went back to eating. I knew how to eat back then and things just improved. Even the mental health, everything just improved and settled down. But I know that there's a lot more that you can do. And I think we should actually go to Chris because he's been so patient.
Yes, absolutely. We can always come back, but I guess, let's hear. I've got Chris's PowerPoint presentation. Hi, Chris. Awesome. Chris is here. Thank you so much for waiting patiently, Chris. Just 1 second. Let me just unmute him. There you are. And Chris, can you hear us? Yes, we can't see your pretty face, Chris.
Why is that?
You haven't
Turn
got
your video on.
Well, I'm not really into the computers, so
today you are. Today you are.
Are we there yet?
No. Have a look down it should be down the bottom on the left. You've got the little video button there and you just unclick that. Oh, you've just muted yourself again. So unmute yourself. Is there a little video? Is there a little like a video camera there that you can unclick?
No, not yet. How about I just talk then?
Yeah, that's fine. How about you do
Okay,
that?
sorry about that. I don't know. I'm not into the computers, so
Don't worry, that's okay.
we'll see how we go.
I have got a photo of yours, so don't worry, people.
That's right.
People
And
know
you know
how you
what?
look like.
Technology is overrated.
It doesn't
Chris,
worry
can
me.
you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
So you are the hero. You are on air now.
Okay, no worries.
So, guys,
yeah,
this is Chris, and this is how he was in 2018. Chris, over to you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Yes, that's me on the left there, and I was 140 kilos then, and my eating habits probably weren't the best. I used to eat whatever's in front of me, and I think I'm like all overweight people or obese people, was that diets you get, you know, I've been on every diet, and they never seem to work. It just doesn't happen. And it gets very, very frustrating. You know, you might lose 20 kilos, but you put 25 kilos back on when you work really hard at it.
So, Chris, if I can ask you, what was the best result that you had got out of any diet? Like best, how many?
Absolute
kilos
best.
And for how long? How long could you keep that?
I'd say I lost 20 kilos, and I got down to 100.
Right.
So I was 120, and I got down to 100, and it only took me, I couldn't, 2 months after I was back up to 125, you know, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, I reckon I've been on 15 diets, you know.
Yes. So what was the trigger point for you to consider something different? Like, of course, I could sense your frustration, but what was it that pushed you to consider something as drastic as surgery?
Well, there was the pain in everything. You know, I was on pills all the time, arthritis. I got headaches. I couldn't get down to play with the grandkids. My mental attitude was really poor. Like, you know, negative voice in your head all the time. You can't do this, you can't do that. And I still played golf and bowls, and I had to get in a golf cart for golf, and couldn't get down to bowl properly. So it was really like I just made my mind, this is the last chance. And then I spoke to a couple of people who had lead the sleeve operation, and I said, right, this is it. And I just made the decision. I come to see you, and I found it very easy once I made up the decision. That was it. I'm just going for it.
Yeah.
Right. So this is your photos, your birthday, not birthday suits, but almost there.
No, that's okay. I don't mind at all.
Yeah, you shouldn't. Come on, you know, we are boys.
There's a big transformation, isn't there?
Oh, yeah.
Big transformation there.
Yeah, well, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do the exercise. If I ever got down to play with the grandkids, I couldn't get up. You know, some people had to help me.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And so that's why I just made the decision. And I'm one of those guys. I'm not very analytical. I don't go, you know, try and think things out. It's black and white, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, you're a typical boy, so that's okay. But like, I think this is where we saw that you had really gone up to a size which was not only uncomfortable for yourself, but I think if I remember correctly, the orthopedic surgeon had said that you got to lose some weight before your knee replacement. Am I right? That's
very, very true. He basically said to me that if you don't lose weight, you're going to have it straight away. And that's when I decided, right, I'm going to lose weight, and I decided on the sleeve operation, and it's the greatest thing I've ever done. But at the same stage, because I had the operation, the sleeve operation doesn't necessarily mean that I was going to, it was still going to lose all the weight. You have to have that mental attitude and change your lifestyle.
That's true. And,
totally.
And we'll talk about that a little bit more. Is that you on the Great Wall of China? Is that
Great Wall of China. I actually ran up it.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, Chris, tell us, what are you doing at the moment? So have you had the knee replacement or?
No, I won't have to have it.
You won't have to have the knee replacement.
No,
awesome.
No,
hey, let's give Chris a hand, guys.
That's fantastic.
Awesome. Amazing. Fantastic, Chris.
Yeah, I don't need a knee replacement. Things have changed so much for me, you know, like after the operation, I had no problems at the operation. So after a month, I started to walk about a kilometre.
So do you go for a run or anything now?
Yeah. I get up every morning early now at 4:30 to 5. I don't set an alarm. My body just says,
He's a 4:30 man. Wow.
4:30, yeah, 4:30 to 5. And I go
So is Danny, you know? So is Danny.
And I go and run.
I haven't gone to bed.
Run and walk 6 days every morning, never miss.
Fantastic. That's
Can I
really
ask Chris a
inspirational.
question?
Yeah, there's my grandkids.
Oh, they're gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Just wanted to ask you, Chris, so did you do anything regarding your gut health during this time, or was it just let's worry about the sleeve surgery itself and just hope that it all works out? Or did you focus on some areas to improve your gut health as well?
Very much so. When I had the operation, I came out and started walking and I started walking 6Ks and all that eventually after a couple of months, but I still felt lethargic and low energy levels.
Yeah.
So I actually started to read Arun's books. I've actually read it twice and I still read it every now and then.
He's sitting an exam on that book now, you know? He is, I tell you, I'm really impressed, Chris, when you came. He has written it to the letter, like literally read it to the last letter, which is good. And he found some mistakes as well. I think is that right? A few grammatical mistakes, thankfully.
I picked those up too, I'll have you know, as a teacher.
That's it. Yeah, so I read the book and then I started to understand the link between gut health and your brain. And it made a big gap, you know. I started to think, hang on, it's just not a matter of throwing food down there and the right type of food. It has to be done the right way too, in the right amount. So the biggest changes I probably had was started listening to my body. So when I was doing the running, I was listening to me breathing, and I was exercising and that sort of thing, and muscle pain. So if I get any muscle pain, I stop because I'm 66. I don't want to get injured because I know what'll happen. It'll be a lot longer than these younger people. And so I've really started to watch what goes into my mouth. So every day I have the smoothie out of your book.
So there's a gut reset smoothie. That's right.
I have that every day. I never miss having that. I have kefir milk, sauerkraut now, nuts, seeds, veggies, lots of fruit. I have lots of grapes, watermelon and things like that. Kombucha drink. I don't drink a lot of that, but I might drink one every couple of days type of thing.
Yeah.
And I've started having carrot juice and celery juice because I've always liked that. It's one of my favourite things. And a lot of soups and things like that. But I don't eat steak and that. I used to have, I'd eat a great big steak and all that. I don't even feel like it now. So it's changed me in that way. Bread, I don't eat much bread. I might have, one piece if I go out to someone's place and that's what they've offered.
Yeah.
I'll have that.
Chris, tell us, did you take any supplements? Did we give you, I don't think I recommended any supplements, but were you taking any supplements like, besides your multivitamins?
No, I only take me multivitamins, that's all, nothing else.
That's all, correct.
Yeah, because I was on 2 blood pressure pills, an ulcer pill, cholesterol. Now I'm on nothing.
Nothing?
Yeah, nothing.
Wow, that is fascinating.
In 18 months. And I've also taken up your yoga. So every morning I'm with you, Arun.
Yes. So that's fantastic because I was, I've seen you as a student who's just taken up everything so diligently. And you clearly a role model for so many, Chris. You do yoga, you are exercising, you are implementing these strategies, and mind you, none of that requires exotic supplements. And that's precisely the reason why I asked this question, because we live in a culture of convenience. That's what I say. We are not prepared to put in the hard work, and it's not even hard work. It becomes your second nature after some time. It really does.
There's no doubt about that. I mean, the biggest difference is now when I wake up, I go. Like if my body says, right, it's up past 4 or 5 o'clock, get up and go.
Yeah.
So that's what I basically do. So I aim for 10,000 steps by 10 o'clock, and I get that nearly every day. So it doesn't worry me.
Yeah,
My mental attitude's toughened up, and that's the the best part, because I used to have that little negative voice in my head and say, you can't run up that hill, or you can't do this, and you can't do that. Well, okay, the voice win, the negative voice wins sometimes, but I tell you what, I win most times now. So, but I don't beat myself up when it beats me either, too. So
yeah. So
yes.
can I say, Chris, that your mental attitude has changed because you have developed that internal awareness to listen to your voice, your inner voice? Would that be a fair comment?
That's very much, you know, like if I don't have this mental attitude and you know, it's a real big issue for me. You just got to get it right, go from there, and I think I have. Like, I used to get headaches all the time. I haven't had a headache in 12 months.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to ask the audience, how many members in the audience actually feel that your inner voice is actually your best guide? It is actually guiding you to the right destination. And I've got some people who are showing their hands. Thank you. Like, you know, a few people who have shown their hands, because I think at the end of the day, we are all being guided by this inner intelligence. And I think unless we tap into it, we just numb it up. We suppress it and we repress it because of our social masks and the social responsibilities, whatever we are wearing. So, and I think that's a very insightful thing, at least for me, when I started going into this, and I've got my own ritual of practice and all that, which I so thoroughly now enjoy, because the kind of intuitive guidance that I receive is very hard to explain to people. You know, you have to taste it yourself to actually experience it, as Chris, you have experienced it. So commendable work. Tell me, what was the biggest challenge that you had when you were, you know, kind of, did you feel at some point that you were feeling dejected, that, you know, this is too hard, I may not be able to do it, because that was your old conditioning?
Are you talking after the surgery?
You had the surgery, that's right. And you had this fear that it may not work.
Yeah, it was always in my mind, because I told everyone I was having the operation, and I think the embarrassment, if it didn't succeed, or if I didn't get to roughly where I wanted to go, that would get me too. So I didn't hide it from anyone. I told everyone I was going to have this surgery and this sort of thing, and there were certain things I was going to go for. But yeah, so did that answer that or not?
Yeah, it did some way. Tell us, Chris, have you had skin removal surgery? There's a question from the audience.
No, I haven't. I haven't had to. I've got this skin, you know, a little bit of flab in that, but it's not bad enough for me. The only time I'd ever get that done is if it started to hurt and sting and smell and that sort of thing, which I heard it can do. So no, I don't think at this stage I'm going to need it.
Yeah, and I'm sure your weight is now stabilized. Am I right?
Well, I was 140. I'm down to about 79.5 to 81. I vary around there, and so yeah, no, it's definitely stabilised. I lost that. I got down to 80 kilos when I was 1 year, nearly to the day, and I'm still within kilo of that now. And that's 6 months later.
Do you know, that's quite amazing. I think I've got the same statistics as you. Do you know that today is my 1 year anniversary? That a year ago today, Dr Arun, you did my surgery. I just realised that before 12 months ago today. So
that's why we're meeting up today on this webinar, isn't it?
It's amazing. And I was just thinking, Chris, I was about the same, 141, and I'm down to 79. So very similar figures there. So it's good to know that you've maintained that, because you did yours a few years back, which is fantastic. Would you say that your arthritic pain improved predominantly because you lost the weight, obviously, but also because you implemented these gut health strategies?
No doubt about that. Because I lost the weight, it's a big part, but I wouldn't have lost the weight if I didn't go into this, my eating habits and improving my gut health and those sort of things. It just wouldn't have happened. I know it. Arthritis-wise, I mean, I'll get reminded every now and then because my left knee's got severe arthritis on the inside. This is what the doctor told me. Then not quite as bad on the outside. But like I said, I can run 4Ks and walk 2Ks and don't have any problems. Every now and then when I'm doing a couple of those yoga moves you get me into, I'll get reminded that I've got a touch of arthritis because the damage is done. I know that.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to improve arthritis.
But I think if I can just say there, Chris, the beauty is that because you have reduced the inflammation in your body, you are not as much reliant on external anti-inflammatory pills.
Oh, no,
I'm not against medicine. I'm not against surgery. I can't be.
I used to live on anti-inflammatories just to go and play golf. I'd have to throw them down and bowls and everything like that. Now I don't take any inflammatory. I wouldn't have taken, well, I haven't taken inflammatory since the operation.
That's amazing.
Yeah. That's fantastic, isn't it? Like, you know, for someone who's got so many things, anti-inflammatory medications. And I've got a question here, Chris, that probably might be more directed towards me from someone. Leanne is asking that, do healthy gut bacteria get affected during weight loss surgery? Well, the thing is, weight loss surgery is required when an individual's gut bacteria have become so out of whack that surgery is needed to recalibrate the system. And then if you top it up with good plant-based fiber, it actually allows the healthy bacteria to come up, as you can see is the case with Chris. Because Chris has not only had sleeve, but he's then poured heaps of good quality plant-based fiber, which is the food for good bacteria. And we need a balance of 80-20. 80 good bacteria, 80%, 20% bad bacteria is okay.
I've just got a question here as well about, what about a vegetarian diet? I mean, I think what you're saying is that predominantly vegetarian diet is the way to go in some ways.
Yeah, here is my view on it, that, you know, when people come and say, oh, I'm a vegetarian, I'm a vegan, I don't attach a lot of emphasis on it. Reason for that is that potato chips are vegetarian. Sugar is vegan. Beer is vegan, by the way, you know, in case you didn't know that. So I say whole food, plant-based meals. I don't even like to use the word diet. And I'm not trying to change the world into a vegetarian or meat-free, although I believe in that. But you can have a bit of chicken, you can have a bit of fish, but I say outrightly, red meat is not good for you. It is full of chemicals, hormones, antibiotics, and the World Health Organization, if you want to just go and look up the website, World Health Organization rates red meat as the #1 class 1 carcinogen for bowel cancer. So if that is not enough evidence for anyone to say that red meat is not good for you, well, then it's your choice. But I never insist on anything. It's ultimately at your discretion.
And then we have to also be careful about, okay, so let's go to white meat and let's go to chicken, but that's often full of hormones as well. So we need to go organic, and we need to go, you know, grass fed or whatever it is to make sure that it's healthy, I suppose.
Yeah. And people also ask about fish. And I say that, you know, fish, if you see the current, you can actually distinguish between a person who takes a reasonable quantity of fish versus someone who doesn't, and just by measuring their blood mercury levels. Fish that is now farmed has got high levels of mercury in it, which is a heavy metal, and itself is a risk factor for diabetes and for neurological conditions. So this is just some information again, you know.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So I'm just looking to make sure we've covered everything and the questions, because that's important. This is meant to be interactive, and we really want to answer and engage with our participants here. We've got a lovely number tonight, and I knew that this gut health would bring on quite a large crowd. I think, okay, it says in your book, do you cover soy milk, etc. over dairy? Is soy considered as bad? Good question.
Okay, so firstly, we got to know dairy is not good. All right. Having said that, a very small amount of dairy, like, you know, taking a little bit of milk in tea or coffee, if you take it, that's all right. But if you're taking large amounts of dairy, that causes more inflammation. So that's number one to understand. Soya itself, yes, it has been criticized in the past for having a hormonal side effect, but things like tofu, it's acceptable as long as that is not your primary source of protein only. So that's, I hope that answers that. If you're not, that's not the only source of protein that you're consuming. Like I say, you got to mix your plant-based sources of protein, such as beans. You can take lentils, you can take quinoa, soya or tofu. These are all amazing sources of plant-based protein. And in my book, I actually so soya, in terms of cancer side effects, well, that is there when you're taking it in large quantities. That's what Sarah is asking.
Yeah.
And if you're taking it in large quantities, absolutely, because the way it is grown, it has got a hormonal side effect, and it has been linked. Some studies have shown a link with breast cancer.
Oh,
So
wow.
I would limit it to a certain degree only, but not the exclusive source of all protein.
And then is almonds safer then?
Almond milk? Yes, almond milk, rice milk. These are good alternatives. Having said that, I just take normal milk because I only take it in my tea.
Yeah.
And my coffee.
I think what's interesting is, people say, well, we need milk for calcium, this, that, and the other. But I think we're meant to just drink human milk, breast milk, and then we're meant to not be on milk anymore, because cows are supposed to drink cow's milk. I think that's the way it works. I'm not sure. I could be wrong here, but, what do you think, Arun?
Yeah, well, it is, human beings are the only adults who continue to drink another animal's milk and feel it is safe for them. It is crazy. It is not required. It is really not required.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your words of wisdom. And can we thank Chris? I feel like I'm the thorn between the roses tonight.
Chris, you are awesome. I think there are so many people who are giving a show of hands on this, just expressing the kudos to you, I should say. Your amazing work. You are an inspiration to many.
Absolutely. And a voice for men, because often men don't talk about weight loss.
Well, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And I think if anyone wants to take up, whatever information they have gotten today, and they really, and they want to start the process of applying it or developing a customized plan for themselves, because everyone has got unique needs. Well, we would be very happy to be of help. And as I said, we have provided that first session free of charge. So you just got to write an email and my staff will send a link to organize the appointment.
Wonderful.
So awesome.
Thank you so much. And just, if we can just conclude, because again, we've gone over the hour, but we could talk for hours on this. I'd like to thank everyone for attending tonight, but I'd also like to thank our participants for their homework. As a teacher, as you know,
yes, of course.
Homework.
And coming.
So I would like to actually give out some grades this week. So I had one participant send me a picture of her journaling and a video of her walking outside and videoing it live and interacting with nature and all that. So wow. A+ to you, and I think you know who you are, and I won't mention names. Well done. Yes. I had another participant who told me they've stopped dieting and they're actually just eating mindfully and being aware of what they're putting into their mouth and trying to eat for good nutrition. I know this person very well, and she's been saying that she's losing weight that way. So very proud, and keep up the good work. That's awesome, because diets do not work. Another one, I've got a participant who told me that her self-talk, her negative self-talk, she's more aware of that now. And so when it comes in, she's mindful about it, and she'll do something to distract herself from ruminating on it and going over and over and over on it again. So that's fantastic. So she's just doing little mindfulness activities that distract her from this negative self-talk. So well done. And also, just to conclude, I've had a few people reach out for private support, and just like Arun is offering to do the gut health sessions with you, I'm also offering only the participants that have been reaching out, and we've got your email addresses and so forth, a free consultation with me. If you just want to touch base, ask questions about potentially having weight loss surgery, what it's like, and whether it's worth it for you, or if you've got any questions about wellness in general and what we've been talking about, I'm just very happy to sit and have a chat with you about that complimentarily. Yeah, so let me know, and you can reach me at the same place as Dr. Arun, or if you want to just contact me on Radical Wellness by Design on my Facebook page and send me a message. Very happy to have a chat with you outside of this.
And I think, Danny, if I can just also mention that we'll be putting a recording of this on the Facebook page. Yes. So it'll be really appreciated if people can share this, or they can, give their comments, because this is one area I hope all of you would agree that we want to increase the level of awareness and not make it more complicated. Already it is so complicated, people are confused. Yeah. My life mission is to simplify this message and use examples like Chris and yourself and so many other people who have taken this and just applied it as a simple formula in their lives.
Fantastic. And next week, what are we talking about next week, Dr. Arun? Do you know?
Well,
I do.
Next week, let me scratch my head, No, I know about it. It is around the mindset. It is around the mindset, isn't it?
It is. It is.
And we've got a very special guest coming in who has completely transformed herself and her life.
Yes, we're looking at the body doing what the mind knows. And basically that's about the power of the mind and how it can influence everything. So I think this will be another one not to miss. And I'll certainly want to learn some more about that. So I suppose we'll sign off now. Otherwise, we'll just keep going.
I know. No, it's fantastic. Hey, guys, everyone, thank you so much. Stay blessed and stay well. Take care and have a good one.
See you next time. Bye.